If you have watched some of my editing videos, you saw me changing the camera profile at the very start of the raw processing. But what exactly are those profiles and why am I changing them? Let me explain. To make it very short, the camera profiles convert the raw file of your camera into an image. As you press the camera shutter, each individual pixel is hit by a variable number of photons. Depending on the charge of the photons, the voltage value of each pixel changes. The raw file stores this voltage data, and the camera profile is then used to transform the numerical data into an image. This means in order to see the raw file as a photo, we need camera profiles. But why are there so many different profiles? Every profile interprets colors in a different way. They can make certain colors look warmer or more saturated, while making others cooler or completely remove colors to get a black and white photo. So you should be choosing the profile depending on how you want the final image to look like. But keep in mind, the Adobe profiles are not designed to give your images a unique look. They are rather meant to be a starting point for the editing process. So here we are in the Camera Raw editor. Keep in mind, the profiles work the same way in the Adobe Lightroom editor. It will just look a little bit different due to the user interface. Right on top of the menu on the right side, you can see the profile drop-down menu. As a standard, the Camera Raw editor or Lightroom are using the Adobe Color profile. If we click on the drop-down, we can see 5 more profiles to choose from. If you have been watching my videos for a longer time, you might have noticed I usually go with Adobe Landscape for a little more base saturation, as you can see, or for other cases I'm going with Adobe Standard. At this point I do want to say the Adobe Standard profile is not identical for every RAW file. Adobe created a unique version of the standard profile for each camera model, just to try and make the image look like the in-camera RAW to JPEG conversion. Then there are of course a bunch of different profiles which I usually don't use that much. As I talked about creating black and white images with the profiles, for that we have the Adobe Monochrome profile, which just converts the color image into a black and white image. But actually there are a ton of hidden profiles behind the browse button, so let's just click that. Here you can see we have our favorites. Those are just the profiles which will be visible when clicking on the drop-down menu. You can actually organize them yourself by just clicking on that star icon in the upper right corner of the image. So let's say I don't need Adobe Vivid that often, we can take it out of the favorites by clicking this button. Then we do have the Adobe Raw profiles. Here you can see Adobe Vivid again, which we just removed from our favorites. So instead of this one, I might want to add the Adobe Neutral profile to the favorites, because this is a very helpful profile as it's producing a very neutral image, which is just immensely helpful for the post-processing. And then there are of course the camera matching profiles. Here, depending on which camera you use, you will have a different list of profiles. So as I shot this on my Sony camera, I do have 9 different profiles to choose from. And further down below this list, there are a few more heavy profiles, starting with the artistic ones. And with those you can see they are applying a very heavy look on the images, which can be quite useful. Right now I can already see artistic free looks pretty good for this shot with the purple sky and the blue foreground, so I might use that later to edit this image. You can clearly see those profiles are changing the colors quite dramatically when hovering over the thumbnails. Then further down there are a few different black and white profiles, depending on how much contrast you want of course. So let's say I do want to use the artistic free profile for this shot. So I'm just clicking on the thumbnail right here. You can see below there's a new slider appearing for the strength of the profile. So if you turn it up to 200, we have a much more intense profile applied, while setting it to 0 will basically give us a very neutral image. So I'm just setting it back to 100%. And once I'm done choosing the profile from this menu, I just say go back. We still have the slider up here if we want to change it, but you can see we now have set the profile to artistic free. If you want to get even deeper into it, you can create your own profiles for much more precise adjustments of the images. using the DNG profile editor from Adobe. This might be content for a future video, so if you're interested, let me know in the comments and I will make a video on that as well. For now, I hope this video was interesting and helpful. If you have any questions left, feel free to ask in the comments, and thank you very much for watching this video.